It's 2 o'clock and it's Tuesday. I think it's Tuesday. I think it is. There we go. We're in our chair. We're happy now. Okay, hi everybody. I hope you're having a good day. I'm having a good day. I've been having a good week. I'm not complaining anyways. Better? Better get a bucket. Okay, so yesterday was a big fun day. And the reason yesterday was a big fun day is I showed a whole bunch of books. I showed some stencils that I've picked up and some stencils that I've been making. I showed a painting that I've just done. And I started working on collage. That was big for me. That was a big deal. I'm not a collage guy. I am, but I'm not. You know what I mean? I find that working in traditional collage is a very different pursuit than working in the sort of half and half method that I have towards approaching storytelling. And because there's a lot less, I have to figure out materials in such a way so that I can incorporate more drawing, because I find there's a lot less of it and there's a little more painting, you know. And as much as I have a background in painting, you know, I like drawing. And there's a strange headspace about having to acquire images as opposed to just drawing them. So it's interesting. It's a very different approach, very different dynamic, but I had fun. So here's today's page. Oh, Linda's saying hi. Hiya, Linda. Anne saying hi. Hiya, Anne. Anybody else that's joined us, you're very welcome. As well as Linda and Anne, of course. You know. So today's page is, I showed the original while I was working on it yesterday, and I have put it somewhere in one of the piles. So I enjoyed doing it. It was a fair bit of fun, but there's a couple of actual, specifically magazine images and images that I didn't work up myself. So the Lemons and Mrs. Primrose and no other name, those two additions to the composition are just specifically photographs, as opposed to everything else which has modification and everything else. But like the pattern that's at the bottom of the textile, the woven fabrics, it's 3 times as large as the actual thing was, because I just kept making more pattern spreading throughout the composition. And then I went and I put down all these trees and through the stencil that I made, that I've put somewhere, and really enjoy this. Oh, I can show you the results of that stencil in a minute. But they got covered up. They got largely covered up. So, you know, it's a process, right? It's a learning curve. It's a giving and taking. But you know, it's one which I enjoy doing. So I made a whole bunch more surfaces with collage to work up on. But yesterday's page was from a suggestion by Marguerite Mitchell of someone cheating at cards, joined along with the Maker's Collage Prompt 2024 for February from P&M Artist Studios. And so it was Armour, Love, Seal, Primrose, Torn Book Page, Woven Texture, Petals, Calendar, and Citrus, as well as the one I missed, Bubbles. I missed the bubbles. I can't get bubbles to come out of my pipe. I missed the bubbles in this picture. What in the world's going on? Maybe we can make up for it. Let's try to get some bubbles out of our pipe. Nothing yet. Well, we'll keep trying. Okay, so I need smashing sounds like David Letterman. Okay, so that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to do that. The composition's fun. The putting everything together, the drawing over top of everything is fun. You know, it's just, I kept adding and I kept adding, and at a certain point I went, I gotta stop. Probably right before I was supposed to do the bubbles. And you know, I'm good with it, but like I said, purely working traditional in a collage format, I find challenging. I do admit it, and I highly respect the people that do use that. So, okay, so we've got a whole bunch of stuff to do today, but I wanted to show you one thing before. This is an example of the tree, the forest stamp that I came up with, the forest stencil, and I did this on just a sheet of paper. This is my first test. And let's see if I can find the other one. Got that blowing around in the wind. All right. I've got all kinds of surfaces to work on. And, well, it's buried in there someplace. But I showed it yesterday in a stream. So some of you saw it. And it's just a lot of fun. A lot of fun to make up a stencil like that and to get to it. Now, that's not to say that I have fully the intention of acquiring some more cool pattern stencils and things like that I see people utilizing and people ordering through P&M, and I'll be engaging in that process myself at some point. Just, you know, everything's about economics, right? Yeah, I don't know where I put the other stamped image of that cover. I have no idea. So here's the other collage images that I put together. This is one. See, this fish isn't on here. I started painting this fish on, and then we've got a shark magazine image. This is some woven patterns and put some diamonds on there. I had considered doing multiple pages for the Mrs. Primrose story, but the reality is that once I sat down to it, I realized, you know, we got one. That's all right. And it was a nice resolve to it, nice fun little bit. It's just a little anecdote, you know, about Mrs. Primrose and how she doesn't like people to cheat. She finds them of low character. So this is from the loon stencil that I carved on the weekend, that I cut out. Here's another one of the mixed media pages that I put together from Collage. I've done nothing with yet, but it has, again, a lot of the elements that we were looking for in the suggested prompts. So there's another loon print, or a little stenciled image from the first, you know, the first of the two stencils that I did this weekend. The other one, the striped line one that I utilized last week, I had done on the Friday. So you could just see wildly different results on the surface that you put the image down on. You know, and I really enjoy how some colors interact with each other. And then there's the last of the assembled collage images that I'll work up on. But so it's a start. You know, it's a start to things. But this is I'll bring it up in the Zoom camera here so that people can see it. But there is the stamped image. Now, somebody had suggested that this looks like a lino cut, and I don't think they're wrong. It really kind of does. You know, I'm cutting with an X-Acto knife on plastic from an image that I just scribbled on it with Sharpie, and you know, I really did lean into that straight line cutting, you know, and not a lot of turning of the blade, as opposed to the loom, which I clearly do, and you know, very different results, and yet at the same time there's a pretty thick line here and here, so it does come off as a bit of a liner cut as well. Either way, lots of fun, and I'll be using these some more, and I've got intention to do a number more. In fact, I've got a bunch of them already drawn on there, so I'll be putting those into things. So we've got, now I said I was going to work on a suggestion for today. Linda had made a suggestion with her son Chris. A certain variety of mushrooms is feeding and controlling the activities of ants. Now, I've read a couple things on this. It's called cordyceps, right? It's this fungal growth. Cordyceps, for those that don't know, this is a random piece of trivia. I don't play video games, but there's a video game series called The Last of Us that I think it's a television show now. Yeah, it is a television show. I don't get the whatever it's being put on, but whatever station or what do you call it, streaming service. But I have the Art of The Last of Us books, and what I really, because I like to collect the Art of video game books. I love the dynamic effort that is put forward by game designers and artisans that are building environments and landscapes and character sketches and item sketch. There's an awful lot of really free-form creativity in there. And when you buy these art of books, you see a lot of the failed attempts as opposed to just the successful one in the game. And because I don't play video games, my only worldview on some of these products and some of these processes is purely through the art of games. So cordyceps is what is the zombie thing in The Last of Us. They're not zombies. It's an entirely aggressive fungal virus, which I found really compelling. And so it's all about the cordyceps. It's all about fungal coating on the surface of the skin, and and then through the bloodstream and then into the brain, and with varying results based on numerous factors. But it animates tissue from the principal drive of the virus to continue to expand and to infect. But it's a mushroom cordyceps viral disease that is in the Last of Us TV show, movie. Is it a movie? I don't know. The video games, and if there's any books. So I found that really exciting. But the real thing that we're talking about is cordyceps mushrooms are things that when ants come across them, it starts to develop a fungal growth of little furry type things on their surface of their dermis, of their exoskeleton. But what it does is it also again infects the internal anatomy of the ant and starts to control them, so that it perpetuates the existence of said ants for a limited time, but in order that they can infect more ants, more bugs, more organisms that can pass it on. It's interesting, viruses, So the suggestion today, after all that preamble, is a certain variety of mushrooms is feeding and controlling the activities of ants. Now that I've all nerded out on you, let's see what we can come up with. So I don't know. I thought, why don't I just start working up and then adding on stuff, as opposed to modifying surface first? Why don't I just start working up on a white piece of heavy, like a nice heavy cardstock, right? And then we'll start adding things like this legal paper. But what we'll do is we'll start drawing it up in pencil, and then we can modify the surface as we go along, and then continue to build up our visual imagery that way through for our storytelling. So, I like the idea of the cordyceps ants. It's just a lot of fun. It's a very different take on zombie invasion. Oh, I just remembered where that other image of the forest. It's here. I had it in my scanner. So there's another. You know what? Why don't we use this? Let's do it on this. So we'll do today's page incorporating this imagery. I was scanning my lemons. Thank you, YouTube. And Linda says that she finds it fascinating as well. Oh yeah, it's very interesting stuff, the cordyceps thing. But this is a print, made from one of the two stencils. Well, 2 of 3 stencils that I've cut. And I'll show you the original stencil. Here it is. And so this stencil, well, I think it's flipped, but is the thing I drew on, and and permanent marker, a Sharpie, and then just carved it out of the plastic with a X-Acto knife. So the first of a few things, you know. But let's get crack-a-lackin', what shall we? And start drawing some of these old ants. Now, there's two ways that I was going to approach this, and this is a moment for people to put in their own thoughts on this factor, okay? And this is your moment. Now, the suggestion is a mushroom. A certain variety of mushrooms is feeding and controlling the activities of ants. Now, I know it says A-N-T-S, but the first thing that this brain does is I think of A-U-N-T-S, and that would be funnier. Because that's how my brain works. But maybe you want to let me know, Christopher, that's crazy, before I get too far into it. I'm going to put a real ant in there, I promise you, but that's just what my brain says. Let's just do ants. Okay, little backstory. Somebody had said to me years ago, dude, the problem with your art and your stuff is that there's not enough hot women in it. And I said, what do you mean? Like, can you do a pinup with some hot women? I said, all right, okay. And normally I'd say no, because that's, I don't see the merit of putting a hot woman pinup in the back of a published book, but it's not my kind of art. Other people do it, and it's not my thing. But I did it, and what I drew was I drew 3 septuagenarians in their nightgowns on mattresses, and all 3 of them are like, oh, sweating. It said, you should put 3 hot women in their underwear or something. Like, why don't you do some hot women in their underwear in a picture? And so I did. He didn't specify age. He didn't specify context. These things are important, is all I'm saying. So when it comes to any approach I take to anything, you can guarantee that the first thing my mind does is turn left and go, that idea sounds good. So bear with me, folks. So anyways, I thought I'd start with the framing. So we've got this central piece of information on the page. Now, whether or not I utilize the entire page as such, I think it's not going to be the case, because I'm working in a portrait format as opposed to a landscape. But I think, therefore I am, that this will be a couple of panels anyways. Anne says, ants, that's funny. Okay, that sounds like approval to me. That's all the approval I need. So yeah, we're going to incorporate real ants. Real ants. Look up a family photo album and put my own ants in there. Why not? Who knows? We'll see. Okay, so I'm going to draw, to start off the whole thing, why not mess with the idea and put a fungal infected ant on our image. And so I'm going to do that in this top corner, where I'm going to draw an ant moving across our page. Now, the crazy thing about these ants is it's not just how the fungal growth is on their carapace, but it also has these tubular stalks. They're actually growing mushrooms on the surface of the dermis of the ants, and that is crazy, and not entirely dislike the rest of us think. So, that's just, I think that stuff like that is very compelling to me, that people think outside the box. Why do another story about random zombie whatnots, and why not do a story where we talk about an infection like that, but through another exposed means? I like that. I like that sort of jazz, you know. That's my jam, yo. So I've got some shape going down to denote our ant, and then I've got to come in and cover it with a sort of fungal bit of business. But you know, we'll see how it goes. I just thought this is such a funny notion of these ants with mushrooms growing on them. It's just crazy business. So there's a start of our ant, and we'll keep cracking on with this. I hope everybody's having a good day. Before I continue on any further, why don't I just do that typical old reminder for you, is that if anybody has story ideas that they want to suggest, you're always welcome to do so. You know, there's for those that are new to it, there's a notion we work off of here in the stream is that I will take on any random ideas that people are suggesting for a one-page story, and our story idea in general, and I will try to fashion a one-page story from it. I don't want scripts, and I don't want your life story. I just you know, if you got a random idea or some word prompts, please realize that you're more than welcome to suggest those my way, and we'd love to take it on. I've had some crazy ones. Boy, oh boy, have we had some interesting ones. And in the course of receiving some of those interesting ones, I think some fun pages have come out of it. But hands down, the craziest suggestion I've been given is by Mr. Jim Luan, and it was a horse playing guitar, riding a bicycle on the edge of a black hole. Do a page of that. And I did. I did it in the structure of two guys suggesting a motion picture idea, and you know, describing these crazy scenes, man. And then the last third of the page is me going, okay, look, I appreciate whatever ideas you guys are coming up with your friends during recreation time, but it doesn't mean it makes any sense to anyone else. But it was a fun enough page to do, and interesting to have to draw a horse playing guitar, riding a bicycle, the edge of a black hole. So thank you for that, Jim. Okay, so there's our first ant, and we'll do a little bit more with it. I just want to try this saucy brush that I picked up. So its name is Mr. Saucy. I don't, Bochito or something like that. It's a Bochito brush. So there's our first ant, and my thinking behind putting this ant on the top corner here is it's the red herring. You know, I did a page last year about a cat lady, and the whole page starts from the angle of an old 1960s. You know, here we are at Morris Tips. You know, the home of Mrs. Morris Tips, and a woman who spends an awful lot of her time with her ladies, and it's all about this cat lady. You know, but it's this, as the panels move along, and what you think are pictures of a little version of this lady standing like this in front of a picture of a big cat, you realize is it's a lady who has a cat's head, and all of her ladies that she takes care of around her house and has litter boxes and food for are little old ladies. And so just a reverse on things. I like doing that. So bear with the crazy. Huh? What? So all right, so I'm going to play with some different things today. I want to throw some different mark making mediums down here into the surface of this illustration. So, and we've got these nice earth tones in there, so we'll incorporate some of that. As I put down some drawings, I'm going to go over top and lay in some of this paper, and then I'm going to bring that drawing back up over top. So little things like that, right? And I've got some very important tools, very important tools for doing some smudging with some stuff too. So we're going to have some fun with our page today, which is, I should type it out, but it takes too long. A certain variety of mushrooms feeding and controlling the activity of ants. So there we go. All right. Okay. So I don't know. I'm gonna just type in ants, ANTS, and see what that gets me, and then we'll start working from there. Now, I'm not drawing from experience because I myself am not an ant, but I'm an uncle. I don't understand where my head goes sometimes. All right, so I'm looking for something that makes marks on paper. Will do. And we'll just start drawing. Let's see if does this turn up in. Hey, it does. Look at us. Oh, Mariah's joined us. How you doing, Mariah? Welcome aboard. Did you see the thing I posted today? This is today's page. Trying to use all your prompts. For this month's Makers Collage Prompts 2024 prompt. So there's today's page. Is Mrs. Imelda Primrose. So there we go. So yeah, I put it in the Makers thing. Anyways, so let's get cracking. I thought that we could just start immediately. So maybe I'm going to jump to this regular clear cardstock, and then we'll incorporate elements together. But I want to utilize this specifically as an example from this stencil that I made of the environment that the ants are getting infected in. So we'll incorporate that. We'll incorporate our ant into our page. But let's start drawing some ants. They're just so silly. Mariah says, I haven't. Oh, that's super fab. Super cool. And Linda says, it's awesome. It's very nice, Linda. Very sweet. Okay, so let's start drawing some ants, which is the only way to fly. Now, my family background is British, Irish, Scottish, Canadian, and not much more exotic than that. So, when I tend to draw little old ladies, that's right away where my headspace goes, is thinking of my own aunts, and they all have names like Pauline, Betty, Marion, Dorothy, June. My mother's the youngest of 9, but they've all got like very, very English names. So I just immediately think of little old British lady. So, but yeah, if you get a chance, check out the Cat Lady page, or check out. I've done a number of pages over the last year where they'll be like, you just have to really sort of spin through the Instagram and let it reload and spin it again and to get to some of these older pages. But there's a lot of silly fun in those, and I think. Do I have a copy of my last book around? Give me a second. I think I have one. I try to keep one of everything in these files, because we've done. Trying to go over to my file shelf. We've done 73 books, so I try to keep one of everything kicking around. All right, so this is my last book, one-page comic extravaganza, volume 1. So, and these are portrait format pages that I'm working in now. So this is Hop Like a Bunny. Here is Nicolas Cage as the Queen. I was talking about this one yesterday. This is Antonio Banderas is Too Sexy. There's a fight between the chocolate chips and the ginger snaps. This is Frankenstein's Monster Goes to Kindergarten. This is a roving horde of vegan zombies. So I have them going to the pharmacy, and yes, it's all pressed up against the fence where the garden is. or constantly trying to hug animals, get it, animal lovers. Or these guys are all hugging trees, get it, tree lovers. These are freegans. That's why all these zombies are jumping into the bins outside of supermarkets. It's nonsense. Sam the Private Eye did a bunch of those. This is all about punk rock. This is kaiju rock, paper, scissors. They're just all over the place. This is The Treasure Was Not What I Expected. This is a fun, I thought it was a fun page. I'm going to be rich. And so this guy's going around with a metal detector on the beach. Maybe I'm looking in the wrong place, he says, as he's wandering across the panels. And in the foreground is a lightsaber and all kinds of metal. There's a Doctor Who screwdriver. There's just all kinds of metal, fancy, world-changing things. And then I cut away to this kid who says, I made the mistake of taking my sister's cell phone. I just wanted to play some online games. It had some weird pictures on it. And then there's this picture standing in front of a giant octopus shape. Am I on the Zoom? Let me put the Zoom one on. I'm so sorry. Okay, so there's the first 3 panels I told you about. And then here's the kid and his sister. He finds this picture of his sister, like this one. It's creepy. And she has a shirt that says, I found the treasure on Magic Island, and all I got was a stupid t-shirt. And then it cuts to the sister. Mom, make him give me my phone back. Toby, I know you took it. And a little word balloon going into the room says, no, I didn't. You kids, stop your fighting. So then it cuts to what he's looking at on the phone, and there's a video that says, come and join our treasure cult. I don't get what my sister and her friends think is so cool. That's why I'm burying her phone. And then we cut back to this guy at the beginning, and he says, I'm not uncovering any kind of treasure here. So, yeah. Just playing on the idea of secret treasures. That's 3 kaiju monsters like Godzilla have a rock, paper, scissors fight to see who gets to blow up the city. That's what this one is. That's me dancing all my dance moves, like the Wonder Woman. That's where I spin around. The skip. No, the hop. That's where I'm skipping, or maybe hopping. Anyways, this is a Society of Vultures page. I'll jump out again, so. That's great. Oh, that's good fun. Thanks. So this is about, the suggestion was, when a vulture cheats on its mate, the rest of the flock attacks him. A little passive-aggressive there. So I have these 3 birds go, we've seen you flapping around with Elma. Not a good call, Carl. And the other guy says, I say we eat him, or we can shame him. Let's let the flock decide. And it's just got a whole bunch of vultures flying in a circle, shouting shame. So this is a whole bunch of mixed media approaches in this. The top images are drawn pencil crayon on cardstock and with some ballpoint pen added. And this is ink in the center, and yet I'm trying to have it all flow organically and unify and match. And this is painted on a piece of cardstock as well with the pencil crayon business. Just assembled. Skateboarder's worst thing is a pebble. This is a frog bucket of frogs. I'm lettering a book right now for the writer of this. His idea is I'm doing lettering his first full book. It's fantastic. Last day at the party factory, guy gets fired, so he decides to strip. Cut loose and be free. This is a page where it's called Today's Not Going As I Intended. The page is a car crash and alluding to scary elements, but the reality is that it's what I had planned is slipping out of my control. I veered off from where I wanted to be. And it's talking about, it's the whole idea of it, and what he's conversing about is the notion that if something doesn't work out, well, you can just do it again and it'll go great. Like you just continue convincing yourself that it's going to work out for you, and everything will be grand. He says at the end, it'll be smooth sailing then as the car careens off the cliff. So this is a 2-page, 1-page story. It's a big one. And this is about a Viking berserker who wants a little bit of me time. A little bit of me time. So it's got these 2 Vikings on the side of the hill overlooking the town where all kinds of terrible things are happening. And it's just a conversation between these hello Lars, hello Sven, this is a long way up, yeah? So I don't think I'm alone in wondering why you're sitting up here on this hill. I'm just thinking, what is this all about? Well, this was your idea. So let's go get some gold from these guys, yeah? It's just dumb. I have fun. This is the worst superhero team ever. This is a comedian, in this case Jerry Seinfeld, who becomes the one thing he hates the most, a clown. You know, that's why it's for your public transgressions you'll be put in an institution where every effort will be made to correct you. Can I get a second opinion? Get him out of here. Observational. That's all I was being. I just observed. Anyways. Another Sam the Private Eye. And then this is the one I'm talking about. It took me a while to get to it. Tonight on Peculiar Interest, tonight we're visiting with pet owner Miss Doris Oates. And so I have these shots of a lady in front of the cat, and there's a lady going into her house, and here she is bringing tea and talking about, oh, I would be lost without my pets, she quips. Doris had so many pets over the years that she had lost count of the number. And then when I pan out, it's a cat lady. I'll zoom in again, sorry. And when I pan out, it's a cat lady, and all of her pets are little old ladies. So in the spirit of that, what a protracted way to get around to my point. So let's do some aunties, and we'll have them get infected with the cordyceps virus. Just absolutely terrible. But if you're an auntie out there, I'm sorry. I'm not meaning it for everybody, just these ones. And it wouldn't have happened if they hadn't been so, I don't know what. Lori and I like watching a show called Keeping Up Appearances. It's an old BBC comedy. I think it's from the 90s. And so it's about this woman named Hyacinth, and she's got this aggrandized sense of self and where she is in her social status. And her long-suffering husband, Richard, and her next-door neighbor, and, well, pretty much everyone around her suffers her. But nothing ever works out the way she thinks it's going to. And so it's those aunties that are going to get it. I don't know if people remember One Foot. No, I was thinking of One Foot in the Grave now. Keeping Up Appearances. It was so good. Anne says, love Keeping Up Appearances. Well, of course you do, Anne, because people of your station appreciate the finer things. My favorite part, I think, is where she says to Richard, whenever he's out doing yard work or whatever in the front yard, she makes him put on a tie. And do try not to get your gloves dirty. But Hyacinth, I'm gardening. Richard, it's below our station to be having dirt upon our gardening gloves. Please think of that. You know, just so good. I like a lot of British television. Like Father Ted was a big show for me. You know, when it was out, like that was just. And I try to explain it to people, and they'd be like, "What are you talking about? Where do you watch something like that?" I'm like, in Canada, we have BBC Canada, and it would be on TVO, and you could catch all kinds of shows. But Canadian television's always been a little bit weird. When I was a kid, there was a television program on called Brannigan, and it was some Scottish guy here in Ontario who was one of the first people, I think, that really used a green screen. And so they had this film footage of a garden with a tall mushroom in it, and so they'd shoot Brannigan dancing an Irish or a Scottish jig who lives under the mushroom in the garden, you know, and it's Brannigan. And so he's like, "Oh, kids, go on, let's have some fun." You know. Maybe he was Irish, maybe so. All of her sisters' names are flower names. Yep, there's Rose, there's Daisy, and there's Violet. I didn't think Violet existed. I forgot, because she's always talking about how great Violet is. They never really show Violet. She never has any speaking lines, but she's always bragging about Violet's success. It's funny, two of the sisters in this show are very upper society hoity-toity, and the other two are, you know, where I come from. We're going to need some big hair for this. Now I've got some other pages that I've done utilizing, seniors. Like there's rock and roll librarians, and I've got a bunch of older librarian ladies that are all on roller skates whizzing around the library. So what's the book I can get for you, sir? Margie, we got one. Comes flying around the corner and grabs the paper and goes off looking for the book. Just nonsense, just nonsense things. Or ladies curling, all women's city curling championship, or cat curling championship, and it's all older ladies throwing cats down the ice. A game of curling. And the team is made up of the ladies and the cats in equal measure. You gotta just have fun. I'm missing stuff, am I? We watch Canadian TV, all the time. We lived in Buffalo. Oh, excellent. You gotta love Oslo. Oh, nice. Yeah, Oslo's the best. That's Daisy's husband, who never wears a shirt. For those of you who don't know. And for those of you that don't know this program, please look up Keeping Up Appearances. Because everyone knows someone that is very similar to Hyacinth. And the unfortunate truth may well be that if you don't know, it might be you. No, but Okay, so here's our first lady giving a bit of the business. So we'll give her a little bit of a few marks here, and I'll hold this. I think you can see it. Yeah, you can see it pretty clearly. So this is our first ant that we're going to draw and incorporate into our page. Now the thing about working in pencil is that I can scan these things, and through processes I can convert this to a black line art instead of having to put ink all over it and changing some of the shapes of the lines and the tones. And I kind of like that, and I utilize that a fair amount. I like what it does with the tone of line, and I don't lose some of the values that I get from drawing with pencil when I do switch it to the inking stage, because it does this nice gradation of the color. So, well, the black, or whatever color I choose to do, because oftentimes you'll see different random colors of drawings in some of my pages. Now if they're pen, it's me drawing in that color pen, but if it's a digital thing, that's me deciding from whatever the original line art was, whether it's black marker or ballpoint pen or pencil or whatever it is, and I'll decide to convert that value, to convert that color to whatever one that I've done. And I like having the versatility of that. I've sort of ingrained some of these ideas into my process, which is part of why I was saying I found it challenging to do a traditional collage page. I found it really challenging to just stick with doing it in the sense of, I'm going to move this in so it's a little clearer to see. I'm sorry. There's our first ant. So I found it really challenging to just stick to the collaging aspect. Before, I'm taking liberty and having fun, and I'm adding some digital elements and just drawing over top of my own collage of images. I have a hard time sticking to anything, right? Okay, so let's do our first step. We got to give her some pearls. So there's a couple different ways we can go here. I've already got our first ant being drawn in conversation with somebody that's over for a candlelit supper or a nice afternoon tea. And I think that I'll have her, we can do it a couple ways. We can either have her talking to somebody about this thing that's going on, and have you heard about so-and-so down at the the ladies, the church ladies group or whatever, and I myself won't go down there anymore because of all the ladies are starting to act quite peculiar. I mean, that's one way we could take it, and then we could sort of show some representations of all those ants. Or we can have, I want it to be something a little more direct, so it's harder to miss the point. Now, in some areas, in a lot of cultures, elders that aren't your parents or your grandparents, oftentimes people will call them uncle or aunt if you're very close to the family, but they're not. But they're older, right? They'll say, right on, uncle, So, I think I might try to incorporate some part of that to this. We'll see. We'll see, folks. We'll see how it goes. Now, I could also give these ladies antennae, right? I could also give them antennae, or I don't want to give them mandibles. That's gross. But I could give the ladies antennae and play on the fact that these anties are ants. This is the beauty of following our own stories and creating what we want to create, and what ideas that you can take a starting notion or a starting idea, like this wonderful suggestion from Linda and her son Chris, and which is a great name, by the way, and then I run with it in whatever random direction I'm often going to. But that's part of the joy of, and that's part of the beauty and grace of creativity, is that it lets you pursue your thoughts and pursue your ideas and pursue things that you enjoy and want to incorporate into whatever it is that you're doing. I like that a lot. I'm a big proponent of that. And I'm also a proponent of do it with whatever facility you have to do it. And by that I mean, if whatever you're trying to do, if you're getting into storytelling, if you're trying to, and I suggest anybody that wants to try these suggestions that I'm working from on the stream, and you see them posted on Instagram or Patreon or Facebook, and you want to give those suggestions a crack, please do. It's a lot of fun. And it's not going to be, what your interpretation of an idea is not going to be at all what mine is. Chris Kaloi did a fantastic thing that she posted on her Facebook of the suggestions of instant coffee, mammoth, and late. And she drew a mammoth drinking coffee, just leaning against the counter where they should be going to something else. But it's just a mammoth leaning against the counter with a cup. And I'm like, that's brilliantly fun. Whereas, I did this whole commercial version of drink instant coffee, don't be like Tammy, and it has this mammoth who's thawed out of the ice and there's no other mammoths around. It's a very, we all do things in our own way. But that's kind of my point, is that allow yourself the opportunity to enjoy the expression, enjoy the creativity part of it, enjoy the opportunity to just have fun for a moment. Don't worry about whose is what, and if somebody's is, somebody did the same thing but theirs is better. No such nonsense. No such nonsense. Allow yourself to move past all of that and to look at the fact that what you're doing is authentically yours, because nobody else is going to work in the same headspace you are. And it goes without a doubt for me, because, but nobody else is going to work in the headspace you are, because it's not just whatever your ability is for exploring expression, but it's also all your experiences and the way that your mind works and the choices that you make as you're working. There's some absolutely brilliant things that when you look at color or jelly plating, okay, Mariah and Patricia are brilliant. They're really brilliant at it, and they do very different things that I would never consider taking a jelly plate printed images and incorporating them in different secondary things that they make from those. And that's awesome. And then you've got Yolanda, who's doing jelly plate printing images. And if you don't know what that is, please go to P&M Artist Studio or Devin Rex for Art and take a look at what I'm talking about here and see their processes and how they make things. Because they're both doing the same thing, but they're not, because it's what they do with it. And I like that a lot. I like the fact that you can see two different people working from the same foundation and going completely different, having completely different approaches and going in completely different applications and directions from one another. So, okay, so getting our first ante down. If anybody in the chat or in the comments for the video, should I put antennae on these ladies? Is that just me being a little too weird? Which is easy for me to do. So, but it's one way that we can be a little more on the nose about our ladies being aunties. Because they're aunts, but they're also aunties. This lady sort of reminds me of Maud. Or, I don't know who she was on Golden Girls. But I think you know who I mean. We'll put her other arm up. So it doesn't matter the space or size of an image as because I'm going to scan it and I can alter it to whatever scale that I need it to be. Now, were I drawing this and you've seen me do this, for those that have been watching the stream for some time, or if you can look back in older videos, I will draw pages complete, top to bottom, with and then follow that through. But a lot of times, I just focus on the storytelling part in the image. So in this case, I'm more interested in drawing the aunties in the conversation here than I am making sure that where it fits, utilizing these images over here as well. But we know that this panel, we know that this aunt, and we know that this lady are all going to be incorporated on the same page. So that's the nice benefit of switching over to scanning my pages and then assembling them digitally, right? Anne says yes to antennas. And you're weird. I'm blaming you to be the weird one, even though I'm the one that said, hey, what do you think of this? Okay, we got to vote for antennas. Somebody had suggested to me that when I go, hey, what do you think of this? And then the first person that answers, I just go with it because my brain's always going to in the moment, and I don't give other people a chance because we all type at different speeds, right? It says little ones. Okay. So I've got my new fancy stool in the studio here, and I'm really only noticing today how squeaky it is because it's still new, and I'm gonna have to apply some. I'm gonna have to grease it up. Stick some of that there WD-40 on her. And there's few things more enjoyable than put WD-40 on something and just opening and closing it and opening it and closing it, moving it up and down. Job well done. No sound. You see that? Let's give her a watch. All right, so here's our first ant, and oh, you know what we should do? Let's put her at a table with a cup and saucer in front of her. So they're talking over tea about gossip, right? Somebody asked me to show them how to draw a teacup once, and it's a strange shape. Look at your teacups at home, and look at the strange shape of the handle of a cup. They're weird. They're weird, but they're designed purposely. The ones that break off easy just stem out, stem back in. Those are the handles that break easy, but the ones that are in an arc, in a form not dissimilar from this one. There we are. Hello, look at me. Those are the stronger ones. It's not about just drawing things, it's about thinking about the things you're drawing and why things work the way that they work. It's when we do that that we, I think, have a clear understanding of the marks that we're making and the things that we're trying to represent. So let's put a fork on here. I'm trying to do this some relative perspective. Relatively. Speaking of relatives, how about these ants, huh? I know. Okay, so we've got the start of our table here, and let's put another plate for the next person sitting there. You know, and it's got utensil on top of it. Did you know that when you are finished your meal, if you want to let the waitress know that you're done, if you put your fork and your knife in an X pattern on your plate, then that tells servers that you're finished? I didn't know that. Boy, Chris, you sure are full of useless information. You bet your sweet Aunt Bippy. Hey, speaking of Aunt Bippy, so I'm going to draw, I don't know why, but I've started drawing an organ in the background. Yeah, I don't know. It sort of popped into my head. Why don't I draw an organ? So I'm thinking right now about shape language and how, and this is actually, I'm drawing the back of a piano for the back of this organ because I can't remember what the back of an organ looks like, but I can remember what the back of a piano looks like. Anyways, back to the chair talk. I think I'm going to WD-40 my thing because the squeaky brand new chair is annoying me a lot. So I've talked about this before. I know I scribble a lot without rulers and it makes people go, get a ruler. Well, you know, I'm just having fun, folks. I'll get a ruler eventually. One day, a ruler will come. And I'll put a carpet, a little rug through here. Tile floor underneath. Where are we at? Am I missing stuff? Nope. Just making sure I'm staying caught up with all the conversation. Squeeze. Hey, look at this. It's a ruler. I do use one sometimes. Just nonsensical information in the background, and the reason for that is that it just populates the space, but it leaves us lots of space for words. Lots of space for the yakety yakking. And then I'm going to do a lot of the lines and shapes that we use to represent items is just abstract basic shapes, right? Or, you know, just like this business here. This is just an interesting break, and a shape here. It could mean a number of different things. It could represent all kinds of different pieces of technology or whatnot. It doesn't necessarily matter that it's a perfect representation, of whatever it is. You know, it's not our principal interest. Our principal interest is that people are watching our auntie talking about the situation that happened. And, you know, and of course the dialogue with this, and the dialogue I find in my process tends to write itself while I'm drawing. But the dialogue for our aunt could be, I'm not gossiping, mind you, but here's what I heard. And that, to me, you know, is where things start to come together. That's the sound of my eraser. So here are her antennae popping out of her forehead, and I put them along the hairline to make them very... What is that? Has she got some breadths in her hair? So here's our first auntie, and I'm trying to make sure that I fulfill the entirety of the compositional shape so that I get a clean amount of information in a square, you know, a square shape, a square pattern here, so that when I'm sitting down on the next stage, I don't have to pull any part of it or warp any perspective, because it's there. It's already done. We did it. We did it as a team. Good job, team. So we'll have her outfit like so, and then this moves back into here, and then it moves off. Panels. We don't need to worry about the rest of her chair. But I think this is pretty good for our first auntie. Now, here's a silly thing. The fact I drew this piece of paper on this angle as it moves off into a vanishing point is to make you think that that wall is going on that angle, and the space has more volume to it. There's more depth to the area, because this isn't a straight wall facing you. It's a wall that's receding into the distance. It goes the distance. Okay, so there's our first auntie, and I can have her talking to somebody else about whatever's going on, right? So this is our first piece of information that we put together to go with our little ant with the mushrooms on it, and the place where all the ants come from, and we'll clean that up and do something interesting with that. Marguerite says, I will come and watch later. Hey, thanks for popping in, Marguerite. I hope you liked yesterday's page from your suggestion. Someone is cheating at cards. Thank you for your suggestion once again. And anybody else, feel free. Hit me. Well, don't hit me. Don't hit me. It's sensitive. But thanks for stopping in, Marguerite. All right, so here's her talking to our next person. So let's draw our next person and how she's responding to it. Now, here's the part where I get to think about, I don't necessarily want to reveal. I want to have a couple of beats in a story before, and in a page, we've got, if you break a page down into thirds, okay? And I have kept scrap paper around. This is a new thing for me, is to keep a sheet of scrap paper so that I can illustrate thoughts. Oh boy. Oh boy, Yogi. So, if a page, okay, breaks down into thirds, all right, and we look at it from this golden triangle, the golden rule of thirds, right? Anyways, so if we look at a page basically in this sort of format, it's called a 9-panel format. But if we look at how we can move the viewer from here to here, and depending on how many of these panels that we utilize, means the eye has to go like so. If we've got a page here that's only got 2 panels, then we start here, we end here, we move like so, right? If And yesterday's page that I showed doesn't necessarily have panels, and yet there's the queen. Okay, here's the card players all sorted throughout the composition there. I've got the lemons that apply to the text that's right here for the lemon joke. I've got a secret little thing of a seal that says 100% original, which I thought was funny to put on something that I've used magazine cutouts on. And then there's this ornate pattern that's in here. So even though that this actually looks like one static image of a bunch of elements that are blending into each other, it actually reads like this because of the way that the text directs the page. Brings us over to here, and then it reads along here and does a little loop back, which is not dissimilar from this. And so it's the way in which the application of our imagery and the direction of our story and our text, because text can be used as a visual element. It's the way that we place those on our page that controls the narrative structure of the page. But essentially it all needs to be this to this. And so in the context of our ant, we've got our ant in the front corner, and then we can draw, a little vicar's cottage or whatever right here, and smoke coming out of the ceiling. And then we immediately go to the first lady who says, "It's wonderful you come for tea." And then here's this bird talking about broken pencil. That's aggressive drawing. And then we can have the first lady telling the other one, well, I'm not a gossip, you see, but here's what I've heard. And so as she's making, wow, this pencil just stinks. We'll switch to a different one. So as she's got her hands open here, and she's making her, well, she's gossiping, and but as she's stating her story, we can have that second character go, oh, okay, yeah, I see it, and then we can have zoom in on another one for emotional intensity of our lady saying, "You understand what I'm telling you here, don't you, Marjorie?" And then we can take this panel, like we've got here, and utilize this across the page. So now we've basically made it a 1, 2, 3, 4 planes of story, and have this happening across that span, and to use some text through here to continue to illustrate our narrative point of where apparently ants, and it's happening in the woodlands just outside of our village, are being infected with some mushroom toxin. And or instead of saying it's some ants that it's happening to, I know that some of the ants, AUNTS, went on a picnic in the forest at the edge of the village and came back with this fungal infection, and do it in that regard. So it's how we tell the story. But rather than referring to these as ants, we're actually referring to ants. And when they go to have a lunch or have a little picnic in the woods, it's the ants have a picnic and acquire the fungal infection. So if you're just joining right now, this might sound really crazy. But the suggestion for today is a certain variety of mushrooms are feeding and controlling the activities of ants. And my first thought is not ants, but it's ants. These ones. So it's all of what you do with a story, really. All right, so let's put down another ants expression, and then we'll have. So we're going to have another lady on here, and we'll put her with glasses, because I wear glasses already. I'm not even an ant. It's that thing. I knew that as I got older, glasses were going to be for sure in my world, but I didn't know where and you don't expect to be wearing bifocals at any specific age, but, there we go. Am I still in the center? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to do our aunt here who's, type of a person in the conversation, because this lady's clearly going to be yakking a lot. She's this is our, Elizabeth that lives next door to Hyacinth from Keeping Up Appearances. Very nice, very kind, very patient. But absolutely terrible to have around your fine china. All these inside jokes, folks. There's a show I also like called One Foot in the Grave. And the first episode is about this fella who's just trying to finish out his job to retirement, and he gets replaced by a box, a computerized box for people to enter their own information when they come to buildings that they no longer need a greeter, security guard / attendant at the front desk of this building. So he finds out he's been, made, what's it called? Made redundant by a piece of technology, which is a very common thing. It's happened to a lot of people these days, but all right, so got some shape in there. Mr. Jim Luan, just want to say hello. I'm lurking today. Lurk. Well, while you're lurking, feel free to let anybody know if you've got an upcoming episode of your stream, Mr. Luan, of, hey man, how's your movie going? One of my friends, I was talking to him on Zoom, and they said that, or on StreamYard, but on private chat, they said that I'm a walking publicity thing for other people, because I'm always referring to what other people are doing and trying to get other people to go and look at each other's stuff. And with that in mind, go check out the YouTube channel of Mr. Jim Luan. He's an independent animator, and he's got a lot of great stuff. Okay, so here's our next auntie as I'm drawing her in. And again, the fact that this is in graphite pencil and the other one is in the mauve pencil crayon that is no longer being cooperative doesn't matter, because I can scan them both and convert them to a black line art in the digital robot there. Excuse me. Drink of water. Thank you, everybody that's come by and hung out today. We're having fun. I hope you liked yesterday's page. I got a whole bunch more of those laid out, and I'll be doing those, incorporating some collage into more pieces. But it's not dissimilar, the process of collage and the assembly of images, to a lot of the way that I work when I'm illustrating these stories, is that rather than it being just a simple single uniform piece of art, and not also very complex, but rather it being that, I often assemble different illustrations and materials and put those together. So it's collaging. It's just a different approach to it. So, okay, so here's our next auntie, and of course, we've got to give her antennae as well. I like the idea that Anne had for them to be very small. Well, for those that aren't aware, an ant's antennae go like so. And just like their legs are the same thing. It's a weird, it's a weird thing, ant anatomy. It's got this triangular shape throughout it. I like it. I like it. It's good. Mm-hmm. Yep. Nothing to complain about there. This is what I mean by I spent X amount of time looking for an image of somebody in order to incorporate it into the collage. And there's just this part of me that's like, I could draw this faster than I'm looking for. It's ridiculous. I'm doing this all wrong. But it's important we try different approaches to our creative expression. It's really important that we do that because it allows us to learn new things, and not just about the process of making, but it lets us learn new things along the lines of how we ourselves engage and interact with the lines that we produce and the things that we are trying to say and make, and the materials that we use, and just builds and builds and builds. Eventually people will say, hey, can you do a picture using this here tuba? No, I mean draw with the tuba. I can do that. Well, that's why they call me Bernie McDavish, tuba drawer. I was going to say Chuck Garvin, but he had a different job. Okay, so here's our second lady, and I know that her panel is going to be more in this shape, so I don't need to draw. Too far beyond the space that I've got now. Sorry, and the thought is going on in here, it just doesn't come out of here. We're just getting that stylish do going here. Of course, some of her little stunted feelers in her forehead here. See, objectively, I'm trying to make them really subtle so that they don't draw too much direct attention. We've had some really fun suggestions, folks, and I really appreciate all the new ones that are coming in. I'm trying to get to everything as fast as I can, getting one done a day at least, but see how we go. But keep them coming. Uh-oh, Malcolm's here. Hiya, Salty Snacks. Salty's been lurking too. 9 out of 10 doctors agree that lurking is good for your health. Okay, so here's our second ante. So we've got a couple of our gossip queens laid out for. There's a couple of images. Now, we can reutilize some of the images in different scales and things like that. So it's, or we can just draw all of the images corresponding to the specific panels. I do like to have movement between the one image to the next image because that shows that there's a little more value in how they're not just standing static, and that when the hand moves in the panel along with the emotion that's being expressed, then it helps the reader to identify that, because often we talk with our hands, and if we're always talking like this, hey, how are you? Oh, I'm not bad. Oh, I stabbed a person. Oh, that's terrible. Are the police going to arrest you? More than likely, I'm living in fear. That's it. It doesn't work. So that was not a personalized true account, by the way. So I try to move the hands a little bit, and it's the tiniest things. It's like somebody doing this. Well, let's draw somebody doing this. So if I've got Yeah, let me think of this. Yeah, okay, let's draw this. So if I've got, I'll put the muscle through here. This is a very expressive, hey, how you doing? Who likes potatoes? You know. But if we put a hand like this in place, so that as a person's talking, there's an expressive element that's just added by having that hand there going, hey, how you doing? Without having to say, capiche? Right? And depending on which person this is, let's say it's this aunt, and we'll put her, we gotta have that watch in there, right? Continuity. This panel, watch. This panel, watch. So it's just a thought, just an idea. She's got those big lapels. And we'll draw her in again. Yakety yakking. So the second part that I need to consider in putting together the overall composition, pardon me, I don't know why I'm yawning Magoo right now, but the second part that I need to consider is where is our resolve going to go? So we've established that we're using ants, A-U-N-T-S, to represent the idea expressed of, you know, cordyceps mushrooms infect ants and make them, you know, feeding and controlling the activities of ants. And so, but we're going to use A-U-N-T-S. So how do we resolve this story arc? Is a very simplistic one. It's just basically somebody presenting the idea of the problem. It's a great opening part, you know, but there's no resolve to it unless there's a punchline resolve of, I mean, they've all been cleared up now and, you know, are being kept in a garden patch on 3rd and Main, you know, whatever it is. But you can do it like that, or you can just present, in this case, this page really is presenting the conflict, it's presenting the challenge, it's presenting the world, you know, building the contextual narrative, or the world building, as they call it nowadays, because words are hard. Contextual narrative is so nice, as opposed to world building, isn't it? So that's where we need to have a resolve of this. And I mean, it can be done a million ways. You can have all kinds of, you know, random ladies coming through the doorway as our two people are sitting there going, oh my, oh dear, right? Ah, put our hands up. Nothing better than somebody that screams like this. Ah. And have a bunch of zombie ants coming in through the door. I mean, that's just one idea. But whatever it is, we can explore that and play with those notions. This, again, is the part where I suggest if you try this out, if you give it a go yourself, and there's an alternative ending that you would sooner approach than here comes zombies through the doorway. Or, you know, you could just have the other girl go, of course they all have to apply a cream on a regular basis. That's your ending punch as well. You know, oh, they're always just shuffling around on Main Street. It's a nuisance. And you've got a bunch of people just shambling through the streets, as you know, as zombies do. There's so many fun different ways that story can take, and no matter what I'm going to do, it's going to be different for you. But in allowing you for developing structure, a story structure here in the chat, I hope that helps to facilitate your imagination to, you know, assemble the story in whatever way, if you've felt like doing so. And again, it doesn't have to be a whole page, and it doesn't have to be all these different panels and illustrations, you can draw a static illustration and tell the same amount of story. You could take 4, 5, 6 pages, tell the same amount of story. It's all about how you go about executing it. I encourage people when to start illustrating things sequentially and telling stories visually and textually. Draw 3 squares on a page. Okay, something as simple as 3 squares on a page. And once you've got your 3 squares on a page, this is where you have, okay, there's your context, here's your conflict, and then there's your conclusion. As simple as that. And if you look at this, and if you look at the structure of a page in this regard, in trying to tell a sequential story, I often use the example of going to get some milk. Here's the context. Somebody's going to get milk, and the conflict is that they looked in, fridge, no milk. And I often use this example, which is a terrible one. And at the end, of course, they've got milk and they're going home from the store. But I often like to say that they get to the store and realize they forgot their wallet. So that you can now do those 3 panels in reverse of the person walking home to get the wallet and realizing they left the fridge door open. It never ends, right? And story just carries on and carries on. Your particular story is just this moment. No, it's this one. No, wait. Now. So we look at story as a larger structure, like when it comes for us telling story, we can recognize the fact that we're telling the story about right now. Well, then. Okay, well, a few seconds ago there. And or we can talk about the one that's coming up in a second that will be more interesting because it's right now. See, so time it doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter what point in time it is, and it doesn't matter what point in the experience or the adventure it is. It's you get to pick and choose. When a person hops down from 3 feet, let's say somebody steps down 3 feet, and I know jumping 3 feet is a terrifying prospect to some of us, but I'm afraid of heights. I don't even look off curbs because of my height. But when the person is on the top of the little raised wall, and then they've got to get down to the ground, and of course you pick standing on the wall, hopping down so that they're halfway between the ground and the top of the wall, and then landing at the bottom, right? You're choosing those 3 moments in time in order to illustrate that idea. And so whatever it is in a story, whether it's something as complex as a number of different panels to represent different aspects of the moment and a passage of time, the other alternative to that is to have a spot illustration of the 2 ladies chatting and the one lady, of course, spreading gossip, as you've got other aunties bumping their face on the window behind them. And you've illustrated a lot of the same information here in a more immediate and simplified approach. And yet that same simplistic approach of doing the one drawing, there's a large amount of complexity in that one drawing. So it's a give and take. The key factor that's the most important thing is the conveyance of the story, the storytelling part, whether it's with a lot of art or a little bit of art, whether it's a lot of writing or a little bit of writing. It's just a fusion of those 2 things and making this tertiary aspect to the story's complexity. It's taking words, it's taking pictures, and when you put the 2 together, bright light, wow, big sound, because now you've got this new and interesting complex thing made from words and pictures, and now you've got this fusion between the 2, so that if you write something down, you don't have to draw it. If you've illustrated something, you don't have to write it. And you can have somebody opening your fridge and not saying I looked in the fridge, but saying there wasn't any milk in. There's no milk in here. Because now there's a deeper thing. You can have emotion from the character as they're saying, "There's no milk in here," or "Oh yeah," and as they close the fridge, they see their own note that says, "Bob, buy milk." Bob lives alone. Bob's got nobody to blame. But you can add these different layers to this. Lots of fun. Okay, so today's idea is, I'll read it one more time. I'm terrible today. It's from Linda and Chris Renz. A certain variety of mushrooms feeding and controlling the activity of ants. Okay, so I will finish this off later on. A couple things I got to do. And I will have this up first thing in the morning so that you'll find it on Instagram and Facebook and Patreon. And I will be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. EST. Thank you very much for coming out and joining in, everybody. And I hope you have some fantastic fun in whatever it is that you're pursuing creatively. Okay, see you tomorrow, 2 p.m. EST. Bye for now.